Welcome. I'm Chris Turner. I'm your moderator this evening. Tonight's assistants, or excuse me, Keene Strait and Vicki Nicholson, our timekeeper and video recorder, Tom Ganning, in the back. Tonight's forum is for the election of candidates for St. Mary's City Council posts 4 and 6. Candidates for post 4 are Tom Ganning left, Reilly, Jeremy Nascimento. Candidates for post 6 are on the far end, starting on the end, Lynn, Keene, and Jelley. Please join me in thanking the PSA staff for accommodating our needs and setting up for tonight's forum. All script after starting. Please thank Tom Ganning for putting all this together.
Amen.
A couple of administrative housekeeping matters. One is, we're not sure if the speaker is going to keep working consistently throughout the evening. After 20 minutes, it may stop. It may go 2 hours. Anyway, at some point, if it stops, just put everything on pause. I'm going to come up and record the sound and we'll march on. Please turn off the sound. Your cell phone. Restrooms are out these doors in the back and right there on your right. During the forum, to maximize time for candidates, questions and answers, please refrain from applause or comments. Wait until after the candidates' final statements at the end of the forum. Questions tonight are the product of public input. Some questions are a consolidation of multiple similar inputs from the public. Tonight's question and answer routine will be as follows. Candidates will respond to the question within the designated time and location. Some questions will be for all candidates, others will be directed to one or more specific candidates. Just before I read the question aloud, the candidates will be provided a written copy of the question. Depending on the question, 1 to 3 minutes will be scheduled and announced for the individual responses. At the conclusion of the Q&A period, the audience is welcome. Spam call. At least it didn't make any noise. At the conclusion of the Q&A period, the audience is welcome to applaud if they choose, and the audience and candidates are welcome to converse one-on-one in group up until 8 p.m. when all are asked to depart the PSA facility. We have to be out of here by 8 p.m. As a reminder, posted on the door at the back of the room is the schedule for future forums during the next couple of weeks. Also posted are candidate contact information, online links to this information. The sequence for the first question will be starting with Ms. Keene on my left. Second to respond will be Mr. Jelley, Mr. Nascimento, and then Mr. Reilly. just read the question once. I'm guessing that if the other candidates question repeated, there are a lot of that. Candidates have 2 minutes on for this question. The revitalization of Midtown has been on the agenda for years. Moving City Hall offices there, having the new senior center there, may be a step in the right direction. Commerce Park is almost sold out. What are 3 more very specific actions the council could take to enhance the Midtown business district? Ms. Keene? Failure number 1. Give it a second.
Power on. Bluetooth.
I would like for the city council to take a look at our ordinances regarding vacant property. That's something that I think the city, by moving City Hall to Midtown, has started to improve. There'll be many improvements made to other structures, as you can already see. But I think we do need to address abandoned business buildings and their upkeep. Another thing that I would like to see us take a look at is how we maintain the roadways, streets, and park sidewalks in that area. I think we have a pretty good start from what I can hear with Jamie Stein, trying to get a palette of plant materials that they'll use throughout the city. And I think having the area more treed will help both visually in terms of providing shade and other attractive areas for people to be and to get outside and use the sidewalk. So those are the 2 things that I would like to see done. And I think we need to take a look at blight in general regarding our ordinances.
Just a reminder to the candidates to go up, because I'm so far back. The first sign is going to be a 30-second warning, and then the last sign will be a 30. No, she used it for 9 minutes.
Certainly the question about what are we going to do regarding Midtown has been discussed and talked about for a long time. Many proposals have been put forward, certainly one of which is our new development director's move to attempt to locate property owners who sometimes live in other states or out of the United States. Getting them to respond is an extremely difficult procedure. However, we need to make that happen. I believe our community development director is ready to do that. She's going to need our help, but it can be done. It's been done in other cities, and it's been effective. Number 2, we have an opportunity in this upcoming election to vote on a proposal to increase ad valorem tax on personal property. That particular item is going to benefit businesses. When businesses have to report their inventory, their personal information, their personal data, their personal equipment, then that tax goes up. With more of an exemption, that's a little bit more of an attractive piece to bring new business into Midtown. The other thing we need to look at very carefully is When we decide to really start moving forward and pushing this effort, we have to choose the right businesses for the right area. All businesses are going to want to come in. We want them to come in. We want them to help us increase our tax base so that the taxes are not all being burdened on our residents. Thank you.
All right, that's a great question. I think the understanding what we need to do in the Midtown as a small business owner, of course, I'm very interested in small business. I know a lot of, maybe even the flack I get is maybe I'm too interested in small business. What about the rest of the town? A lot of my clients, I'm a hairdresser by trade, and as they bring people that visit, they say, I can't wait to show you downtown. And they drive them through Midtown and they say, just close your eyes until we get downtown. Guys, number one, the first thing we need to do is we need to revitalize some of that blight down there. When you have businesses, you say, well, they're going to want to be there. Well, right now, they don't want to be there. The first thing we need to do is we need to figure out an aesthetic for St. Mary's. As far as I know, we don't really have one. We don't know who we are. Let's figure out who we are and who we want to attract, and then what we want it to look like when they get there. Number two is you need to incentivize small business to want to be there. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, what I'd personally like to do is not hand it off on somebody else. I'd like to take them down and say, let me show you a building that would be great for your business. It's something we can revitalize, and this would be perfect fit for you. Here's what I just went through when I set up Yankee Pie down at the old post office building. Here's a checklist of what they're going to expect, and let me walk you by the hand through each step of the process. That's something that would have been very useful to me, and I know would be very useful for incentivizing small business to come down. And I think Ms. Lynn already mentioned the roads, the streets, the drainage. That needs to be something that obviously goes without saying needs to be upkept. But let's revitalize the blade. Let's incentivize them to come down there and give them a reason to want to do business in that Midtown area and figure out who we are.
Thank you. Thank you. Midtown is certainly a very important part of our city. It's really the way you get from the highway down into the downtown area. We have been working on Midtown many years and trying to get a study. Started a study that's going to happen here, which is going to be the Renaissance plan. What we need there is for all of us to get involved with that plan when it's being developed. We get our input and make the best change we can to make this plan meet all attention. Move City Hall from downtown into Midtown into Plaza out there. It's important that as we do that, we develop plans to take care of some of the issues we talked about, the landscaping and so forth. We'll get start right in that building. And thing with or the item about incentivizing is another important thing. Currently, we have some incentives that are being developed or have been developed and incentivized. We need to make sure we advertise those people. And anybody that's coming into the city to develop a business should first visit Main Street Manning. We have a plan, and it has all the information for how to access loans. It has the information what you need to do as you go through the process of developing the business. And those things are important to understand up front. And, some of the businesses might have some issues, probably haven't checked to see what is available. To do that, find out combination. Thank you.
The second question, start with Mr. Reilly and then those on the table in order. Current city general fund budget is more than $21 million. How that budget is allocated is available city where taxpayer dollars are expended. Please tell us in 1 minute your expertise, understanding, and managing budgets, how you will hold staff accountable.
The way we develop this budget is really a most important job that I think we do. And, we have to review that budget in detail and understand where those money's going and what we can do to take care of that responsibility is to know where the money's being spent, and each of our department heads have to commit to us what they're going to do. Well, a minute ago. And so, again, reviewing the budget, understanding the budget, and then holding the meetings every month to review the budget, how we're spending it is core of that.
All right, so budgeting is the basis of all small business. Being a small business owner for the last 17 years, you can't have anything without a budget, and nothing runs efficiently. And the big joke with government is nothing runs efficiently in government, and the budget is no exception. I love what Vivek Ramaswamy said. He talked about having a zero-based budgeting, starting at zero and adding back the essentials. What we need to do is we need to review the budget and only add back the important essentials and start making cutbacks on all else. When I went through the budget, there's a lot of things, obviously, that could be better managed, but there's some consolidation and some wasteful spending we need to look at. And that's super important if you're going to be able to have a budget that works.
My expertise in understanding and managing budgets of this magnitude. First, the City of St. Mary's has a professional, well-run, well-organized finance department who over the years have received A+ ratings from independent auditors. No error, no omission, no mistakes. Council members need to rely on that finance department, take that information, review it, look at it. Look at the dollars being spent in certain areas and make adjustments accordingly if any adjustments are needed. All council members know the math, can add the numbers. It's the finance department that does the hard pulling. We as the council need to make sure that we keep them pulling in the right direction.
Thank you. This is directly in my wheelhouse. When I retired in 2018, I was the chief financial officer of an organization with revenues of $330 million and earnings of $67 million. I am very skilled at allocating resources for success, and all without the benefit of having tax revenue increases to make ends meet. One of the things I think will be very important in the budgeting process is to take a look at the accounting system. It's very hard to circumvent a good system that takes an end-to-end system, starts with purchasing and ends with financial statements. I'm sorry, do I still have time?
I'm sorry, the first sign is going to say 30 seconds ago.
Okay.
The last sign is 6 seconds.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead and finish your thought and then we'll move.
Right, so I agree with the idea that you start with a zero budget, take a look at what you've done in the past year, add the essentials, and again, an end-to-end purchasing to accounting system that's closed and has good internal controls is essential.
Do we have more questions?
I don't do it. You're going to be up first. There's a question that's up. I'll read it. Third question. most citizens are focused on the primary service functions of the city, police and fire safety, and public works service. Yet the city is involved in dozens of non-essential services, including managing a water park, a marina, a senior center, festivals, historical sites, the list goes on, and taxes go up. If elected, what will you do to prioritize and perhaps shift some of these obligations that may not be related directly to city core responsibilities? Jelley?
Excellent question. As far as the non-essential services in any city goes, you're going to have a plethora of them. Are non-essential services something we want to get rid of? Do we want to get rid of our parks? Do we want to get rid of our areas where we can go and walk in peace and quiet? How should we be approaching all of these other entities that are not directly related with running a city? I think our residents certainly would have an input to what kind of services they want to see. Many of these services that are listed in the question are services that our citizens have asked for or questioned the city about. Why don't we have a park? Why don't we have a place where we can go in the summertime to cool off? And the list goes on. So again, prioritization is a key element, in my opinion, in order to achieve this goal. Thank you.
I agree, this is an excellent question. And I think that we do need to hear from our citizens regarding what ancillary services are important to them. There are many ways of managing those services successfully. And with the list that we have here, with the water park, the marina, the senior center, festivals, historical sites, there is no way that the city can afford expertise in all of those areas. So I think what we need to do is take a look at other ways of managing those through the city, but perhaps engaging other experts to help us with those.
Is an excellent question, and when we think about some of the non-essential things that we run in the city, such as the park, you know, the park is what draws visitors, what runs and helps the businesses operate, and got the businesses operating and making revenue from the city. And our park is one of the probably most famous parks around the area. People in Fernandina envy the park that we have. I found that out when I was and we've got a pool, aquatic center. And that's another item considered non-essential. And we do need to get know that, how to manage that thing correctly. And I think that is being done, and that draws people into the church. I think that when you start spreading them out, you need to understand what non-essential services are being used for. You need to correctly pick those that want to take and do a little bit more management. Thank you.
All right, I agree with Ms. Keene on that. I do not think that the city should be in the enterprise business. I think private parties always do a much better job at managing things than a city does. And we've seen years and years of the city try to do, I'm looking at the three biggest things. You have water and sewer, aquatic center, marina. You know, some of these things bring in the revenue for the city, but they're very poorly managed. Yankee Pie was working the aquatic center this year, and I was looking over at workers that were 3 and 4 workers just handing ice cream out of a freezer to people. You do not need 3 or 4 workers to hand someone drinks and ice cream. So it just needs better management. That's something that is my expertise and I can bring to the table. I'm not saying get rid of the water park. What I am saying is let's take a crack at better management. Maybe we need a personnel change, maybe we just need the place to run better, and we need to look at that budget. But I, as a principal, do not believe the city should be in the enterprise business. I believe if we can't turn that around and manage it properly, it should be left to private parties. They handed us 5. We have 4 here. This must be 5.
Question number 4 is directed only at Mr. Nascimento. Mr. Jelley and Ms. Keene will have a 1-minute opportunity to comment or rebuttal. When we get to the next question, you'll understand why Mr. Reilly doesn't get a shot at the question. With an increase in rain-related flooding damages across Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, and coastal Georgia, is it time to be more proactive regarding the likelihood of future flooding? Rather than focusing on ditches and seawalls, is it time to take a more aggressive step and stop issuing building permits in areas of St. Mary's that historically flood?
Okay, I'm going to try to do this in a minute. This is something I have great interest in. I think there's several things. We can build temporary vinyl blockades to redirect water flow away from some of these businesses. So that's one. I have actually a plan to fix flooding first. That's one of the biggest things. But one of the things that needs to change is the ordinances, not so much stopping the building permits, but they need to be reviewed and allowed to be able to build up off the ground. I know there was a structure next to Market on the Square that was trying to build 10 feet taller than what the structure was as Market on the Square was. Well, if you know anything about Market on the Square, they flood every time. We have even a heavy rainstorm. Why would they build to the same specs as Market on the Square? We need to review those ordinances, rewrite them to allow these buildings to build higher so that we don't have future damage to businesses in the front. Then there's different things we can look at with temporary structures and so on and so forth. But we need to fix the problem, not be so obsessed with making it the same, that we just get tunnel vision and we're just obsessed with having the same look that we're not using just plain old-fashioned common sense.
This is a very important issue for the city. There are a lot of facets to this question, so I'll try and get through it in a minute. First of all, I think we need to be very selective about future development and decide who we want to be and take a look at all of those things. The other thing to know is that the city has been working on the stormwater and drainage issues for a while. In 2008, they had a study by Thomas and Hutton. There was a stormwater task force that worked on this until about 2014. And in 2020, they passed a stormwater ordinance to establish a fund. At that time, the COVID epidemic sort of stalled their implementing and funding this fund for stormwater, but I think that's something that we need to do along with looking at using more pervious or semi-pervious surfaces as we build.
St. Mary's, Georgia is in a very low-lying area, very close to sea level. Certainly you could build seawalls, large ones. That may be a temporary fix. One of the things we really need to look at, first of all, the hydrodynamics of the entire lay of the land before we can come up with the best recommendation for building, commercial, residential. They're all going to be a little bit different. What we want to make sure we don't do is dissuade new businesses from coming into St. Mary's and bringing our tax base up, which we need desperately so that we don't continue to burden our taxpayers with all of the costs of maintaining the various services we've just been talking about tonight. There is a way in order to reduce the water intrusion during high water conditions and storm conditions, and we really need to look at that. Thank you.
Question number 5 is for Mr. Reilly only. 2021, the City Council approved an ordinance that established a stormwater utility. To date, the city's stormwater utility has not been implemented. Please explain why and when it will be implemented.
Thank you for that question. Very good question, and some of the answers I'm giving on the prior question roll right into what the answer is on stormwater. Stormwater was a stormwater utility was developed over a period of 2 years, and toward the end of developing that, well, at any rate, at the end of that, we all recall the COVID crisis, pandemic, and that changed the dynamic process. We first approved it. Not up, close enough. How's that? Okay, thank you. So at any rate, when we approved it, it was right at the toward the end, not the end, but the beginning of the COVID crisis, and gosh, already 30 seconds. And so we didn't approve it at that time because we didn't understand what the financial impact on all the residents was going to be as a result of the COVID. And so what we did was approve the ordinance, did this knowing this at the time, and then put it on hold. One of the things that we should remember is all these about stormwater and the stormwater ordinance and some of the other things that we do contributes to the savings that all of us realize through our flood insurance and things like that. CRS rating goes up. So thank you.
Question number 6 is directed to Ms. Keene. She'll have 2 minutes. Jelley will have 1 minute for comment and rebuttal. It appears to me that the city is very transparent on items that don't matter much. 3-page contracts for the software. When it comes to billion-dollar taxpayer investments, information is not so important. Tell us where you stand on transparency, how you will handle that issue, even if you stand alone on council.
An excellent question. I think that one of the things that we can do to engage the citizens is to do a better job with sharing information. The other thing that will do is free up some of our staff time, which is currently spent answering questions individually. One of the things that I think has been done recently is putting a storyboard on a large project. It's the Exit 1 project on the city's website, and that was that board was done by Jamie Stein, who is our new planning and development director. But I think if you take a look at this storyboard, embedded in that are all the relevant documents on this project. Now, the problem that I have with the Exit 1 storyboard is it didn't go up until after it was complete. The Exit 1 project was a done deal. But I think if you look at that, It's an excellent way of allowing people to have information. One of the ways you can do that, of course, is to attend the city council meetings, but we can't assume that everybody's going to be able to do that. People have jobs, children, other obligations in the evening sometimes, so we need to have a mechanism for getting the information out there. And I do believe that the city would benefit greatly by some sort of public information officer who is responsible as a service organization to all of the departments in the city: public works, planning and development, anything that we're doing with water, stormwater management projects, large things that we have coming down the road, I think should be put on the website in the form of the storyboard. And if you haven't checked it out, go to their website and take a look at it, because I think it's a great way for us to communicate better.
Transparency. The term transparency is very overused. It has become a buzzword. Residents that I spoke with don't want to hear transparency anymore. What they want to hear is honesty, truthfulness, and above all, service. They want the truth. They don't want to have to dig for it. Transparency has been used for a number of years and continues to be used, but that's not what our residents want. That's not what I want to give them. I want to give them truth. I want to be honest with them, forthright, and provide service to them. Thank you.
Question 7 is for Mr. Reilly with Mr. Nascimento. Neither one of you have been very specific in your about what city issues you hope to address if elected. Mr. Reilly, you focus on things you believe you've accomplished in the past without any reference to 2025 and beyond. Mr. Nascimento, you only state that if people elect you, you will have answers to the city's perceived problems. Can we get both of you to be more specific about what 2 things the council needs to address in 2025, 2 probable issues in 2026 and beyond?
Right. Well, I'm new to the job. The person to my right, he is a gentleman and very experienced. But I tell you what, I cannot promise you that I have all the answers, but I do have a lot of friends who do. And since we started this campaign, I've counseled with many people. Our state representatives, a close friend of mine, business entrepreneurs, restaurateurs, city planners, budget expertise. I've counseled with many people. So what I would say is the most important thing is we need to focus. We already talked about the budget. If that SPLOST vote doesn't go our way come March, we're going to default on loans. So it's imperative and it's hugely important that we really think about what we're doing with the budget, especially as it pertains to Exit 1. And then getting more specific, I know I mentioned the fixed flooding first ban and how we're going to bring small business. I only have a minute for this question, so I can't take a lot of time on this, but I think it goes without saying that that is my area of expertise, is small business and enticing other businesses to come in and want to do business in our city. But what I want to do is I want to make St. Mary's open for business. Guys, the only reason I'm standing here is because it's not going great. If it was going great, I wouldn't be here. So I promise you, I've got plenty of stuff to do, but I want to work for a boss. I haven't worked for a boss in 17 years. Guess who my boss is? You are. You guys are my boss. So I'm ready to work for you guys. So I know I can't be super specific in 1 minute, but obviously see me at my table. We'll get down to the nitty gritty and talk about some more specifics.
Thank you. And I would echo some of the comments Mr. Nascimento made. And what I would say is that one of the issues that got to be worked on here quickly, and we have to solve it, is this stormwater ditch. It's not letting the water run through it the way it has been. And we're working to do that, and we're going to continue to work to do that. And one of the things that is high on my list, didn't get a chance to tell you how we're going to get that implemented, but the stormwater utility needs to be implemented. No question in my mind that has to be implemented, and we're addressing that at the level. I didn't see it quick enough to catch it for you. But at any rate, that's one. And then the business, and we mentioned, or my opponent mentioned the exit one. That's something that we've got to pay just super critical attention to throughout the process. And we've got meetings set up. We hired right people to come in and be program managers for that, and we're also insisting on updates. And we go through the budget, we go through the progress, and we go through the work that's being scheduled in the near future, so that we can plan that out and make sure that the thing becomes revenue generating in time to pay the bond. So, thank you.
Obviously, we're down to one microphone. Question number 8 is directed at Ms. Keene. She'll have 2 minutes, and Mr. Jelley will have 2 minutes to respond, while Mr. Reilly and Mr. Nascimento will each get 1 minute. A month ago, the City Council discussed the proposal to extend the MOU between the city and GOPE Gateway, Inc. for an additional 24 months, including an automatic renewal clause. The item was tabled for further discussion between the attorneys. Is the city on the right path for the use and ownership of this property, or is a different path and objective in the best interest of the city?
I'll be direct about this. I think.
That's question number 8. Ms. Lynn gets to take a look at your map.
Well, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between the city and GOPE Gateway project. Like many of you, I don't know very much about this. So this is a perfect example of why we need to have a public information officer. Because as a citizen, it's very hard for me to say whether we're on the right path with this project or not. I don't have enough information about it. So I generally think that anytime you're working with a business, it's not a good idea to have automatic renewal clauses, and I'm not sure why we need to have an additional 24 months, because I don't know what the problem areas are. I can assure you that I will be taking a look at this once the information is available. And I could make a public information request like all of you, but I haven't done that yet. So I don't know if we're on the right path or not. I don't think that it's a good idea to do these automatic renewals, because I think it takes a little bit of pressure off of the person who's developing the land. And when you do that, you know, the squeaky wheel is going to get the grease. So I'm sure that the person that is doing the Gateway project is also involved in some other things. So if we let off on the pressure, it just stands to reason that they'll lower the priority of what's going to be done with that land, and I just don't think that's a good idea.
The Gateway Project. So meetings are held on the second Thursday of each month, 5 p.m. at the Main Street office. These meetings are open to the public. They have been. I've been attending them ever since the project started. So I can give you a little bit of factual information regarding this and stay within my 2 minutes. First of all, the overarching intention is to be able to utilize and capitalize upon the fact that we have a marina there and a very much needed, albeit smaller, hotel, but very upscale. Second thing that the entire Gateway project tries to capitalize on is bringing visitors to St. Mary's. Why? Again, let's increase that tax base. Let's start bringing money into St. Mary's from someplace else and bring their dollars here for us to use. As far as the MOU goes, that was something that sort of made sense at the time. Part of that problem that required the MOU was artifacts being found during the first dig. The first dig revealed pieces of pottery of some sort that the state is analyzing to determine whether or not they need to make a second dig for better or more artifacts. It is believed that a lot of the top layers of soil that are there now were placed there not many years ago by another entity in St. Mary's, so they probably are finding shards of pottery that came from another location. There have been a lot of stumbling blocks as far as the Gateway project goes, but anytime you're starting from scratch, starting a new business, starting a new project, you're going to run into problem after problem, and those problems are being solved.
Well, I think this came up at a city council meeting a couple meetings ago, and actually my opponent, Councilman Reilly, brought up that he thinks we should nix the auto renewal. I highly agree with him. I think I'm actually going to vote for Dave Reilly this upcoming election. Honestly, I think he said it best. I think they have a tendency to kick the can down the road so much there's no need for those automatic renewals. So I would echo what he said in that. As far as the hotel and everything, I'm obviously for it, but let's give them a reason to even come here. What do we even need that for? So I think, as far as the specifics about the Gateway project, I think that this is something you're probably not going to hear a politician say very much. I don't know. That's something I know how to read, and I think that's something I'm going to have to read up on. But I agree with Councilman Reilly's nixing of the auto renewal.
Thank you. Well, you may, on that, but you may disagree after I go through this. But I'm a strong proponent of what we're doing on the Gateway property. As you know, that we got this property several years ago. Beautiful piece of property on the waterfront, and there's been a couple runs at trying to develop it. They failed for different reasons, and along came the current owner or businessman that is trying to develop that property, and he has a plan that he spent a lot of money on getting. He spent a lot of money on the work that's already been done to date, and he's got a need to get that done before he can start building the hotel. And that's what we're going for, to build the hotel. And that's why this property that they found the artifacts in, that issue has to be resolved, and there's probably be more. So I think we shouldn't do an auto renewal because that just doesn't sound good. I think that we ought to do an agreement that allows him to go with the Gateway Committee and the City Council reviewing it periodically to determine. So, thank you.
This question is directed only at Mr. Nascimento, with no opportunity for any of the other candidates to respond. You have stated that your goal is to fight for our town by minimizing residential taxes, expanding commercial growth, and increasing revenue for our city, all while ensuring full transparency. What is your basic business plan to achieve these laudable components of your goal?
All right, transparency begins with responsiveness. You know, there's something wrong when a citizen can get on the citizens portal, put in 3 emails, and then never get 1 response back from the citizens portal. So you want to be transparent, respond. You know, everyone says, you know, how are you going to do it? How are you going to manage 2 businesses and still do city council? Well, one thing I know how to do is respond to people when asked a question. Now, I may say, hey, I'm super busy, but I will get back to you at this certain time. But one thing you can get assurance of is responsiveness. Now, I've been very clear. I think on my Facebook, I have a policy moment videos. I have 7 of them. And obviously, I think the property taxes were a little over $12 million. Sales revenue was a little over $400,000. Guys, there's a lopsided problem here. So if you want to stop a city from going into the pockets of the citizens, you have to offset it with commercial growth. We cannot be a city that is stuck in the dark ages. I think Savannah, St. Augustine, Fernandina do a great job of having a city that is still historic and still has charm, but yet they are vibrant and they are a thriving city. And I think our city could be more like that. We mentioned it in the first questions about Midtown and about downtown, but there's a whole lot more to the city than just Midtown and downtown. It's a citywide issue. But we need transparency. And here's the thing, when I go to these meetings, and most of them I just have to watch on streaming. Obviously, I'm busy running 2 businesses, and I have a family, which is my #1 priority. But a lot of times, what I'm interested in, they never talk about. Have you ever been to a city council meeting where you just kind of sit there and you're just like, oh, I want to know about that. And then they go and do a working session in some back room and we never hear about it. And then something gets pushed through. It's like, what happened to? A lot of times you just get a lot of head nods when someone goes up to the microphone. Let's change that. Let's have council meetings where we actually talk about what's important and not go into the back room. We can't claim transparency and do everything in the back room. And I think the city needs to do a better job of marketing and getting the message out there because people still don't know about it.
Question number 10 is directed only at Mr. Jelley. You've been an outspoken critic of the city when it comes to projects in your neighborhood, i.e. Dollar General and potential RV park. How do we know that you would show the same verve and enthusiasm for less popular projects in other neighborhoods?
With only 1 minute to answer, here goes. So the RV park, I'm not sure which one they're talking about, but if they're talking about the one that's next to, wanted to go in next to Dollar General, yes, I was very outspoken. That was clearly a violation of existing ordinances. They were, as far as density was concerned, that park did not work. Community Development Director recognized that. As far as the RV park across the street from Dollar General, I reviewed those plans very carefully. I spoke with the developer at length, both publicly and in private. And one of the suggestions that I made to them, absolutely, they took into account and changed the way their storage lines are going to get hooked up from the RVs and put into our city storage system. As far as other projects in other neighborhoods that are not quite as popular and citizens are concerned, I've already been to some. I've talked to the citizens. I spent 4.5 hours at one individual's home. He explained why there was a concern about the project. So the stop has come up. My minute is done. Thank you.
Question number 11 is directed only at Mr. Reilly. You've often said you have special projects you want to see through to completion. What is it you think you can do in a 4th term that you could not accomplish in the first 3?
Thank you for the question. I think that's a fairly easy question to answer. If anybody's familiar with the work on the multi-use paths that we've been working on St. Mary's, and I've been one of the mainstays on that, it takes time. It took us 4 tries, and we just won the grant for the Tabby Trail at the north end of the community. And so that's one thing. So now we're starting the trail, and we can see that through to completion. But more importantly, stuff that follows that trail, such as the satellite trail, the East Coast Greenway, the ferry downtown that will take us to Fernandina, and put the East Coast Greenway through the city instead of going up on 17. And so we route all the East Coast Greenway traffic down through city of St. Mary's and bring that traffic into the city. So it's that, and then we've talked about the stormwater utility. I was intimately involved with that for a long time, and that needs to be finished, and that's something that I can do. Thank you.
Question number 12 is directed to Mr. Jelley with a 1-minute rebuttal/comment provided to Ms. Keene. There is considerable citizen rumbling that is obvious that some council members are unprepared to discuss any of the agenda items at a meeting. With the meeting live streamed, it's there for all to see. Since decisions are based on all 6 votes, what role do you play making sure others on council do their homework and participate fully in decision making?
Again, with only 1 minute, this is going to be a tough one to answer in its entirety. However, as many of you know, I like to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and I read the requirements, I read the rules, I read the regulations. To that end, I read all of the pages in the work packet that our council members have an opportunity to receive. And sometimes that packet consists of more than 200 pages of information. It's extremely difficult to go through it and pick out what you need to put your eyes on in order to be able to adequately address those particular items. So, on City Council, it would become very obvious that possibly some other council members didn't have the time to do the necessary homework that's required. At that point, there's no reason why a particular item cannot be tabled, cannot be deferred. If we don't all have the information that's needed to make the right decision for our residents, then we should not be voting on it at that particular time.
Well, I'm going to echo some of the things that Ken said. I also receive and read the agenda for the council meetings and the council packet. And a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting there reading it, and it was 300 pages long. Now, that happened to be the packet that had the pension plan information in there, but in my years as a chief officer of a company, we prepared packets for our board of directors, and I would say that the council is your board of directors. We were required to prepare concise information that was relevant and pertinent to the decisions that were going to be made. And I think that as a council person, if I'm elected, I will talk with our management team about getting that corrected. And I also agree, while I hate to table a matter because someone is unprepared, I think we can head that off, because I don't like kicking the can down the road. I think we have decisions to make, and we have been put in a position where we have a responsibility to serve you in a timely manner. So I think we can head that problem off by making the packets more concise.
Yeah, I was jumping to 17, the last question. Yeah. This question is directed to all 4 candidates. Mr. Jelley will respond first, and then we'll go into our normal rotation. In your closing statement, please discuss subjects that are important to you that have not been covered by the forum question. And why will the residents and business owners in St. Mary's be best served with you on City Council?
Certainly one item that has not been discussed in enough detail is the fact that right now, today, our residents are bearing the majority of the financial burden in order to keep our city running. I've said in the past, and I say it again, we need to increase our tax base. If we do not increase our tax base, if we do not grow, if we do not progress, St. Mary's will not either. That tax base is going to come from new business, new enterprise, new initiatives. It can be done correctly, and I know a lot of residents are concerned about big business coming in, and I'm concerned about that also. There's a place in all locations for big business to exist, and there's a place in St. Mary's for the right business to exist. And that's what we need to do, and we need to do it carefully. We need to attract that right business to St. Mary's. Why will residents and business owners in St. Mary's be best served if I'm on the city council? Truth, honesty, forthrightfulness. I want everyone to know what we're doing. We should not have secrets from our residents. And if we are concerned that an initiative that we're ready to take is not going to be popular, well then, let it not be popular. Let the residents complain to us. But let's not build a shield in advance because we are afraid of feedback that we don't want from the residents. Let's keep everything truthful. Let's keep it honest. Let's keep it open. Let's keep it for our residents.
A couple of things that have not been covered tonight. One is SPLOST and its role in paying our water and sewer bonds, which were issued in 2021. As some of you might know, SPLOST 8 expires in June of 2025, and we'll have a referendum in March of next year to vote on SPLOST 9. And right now, our cash flow requirements on those water and sewer bonds are in round numbers about $3 million a year. On your water bill, you will see water and water 2 and sewer 2. That number 2 charge on your bill generates about $1.5 million a year that we use to pay half of the $3 million on the water and sewer bond, and PLOS generates the other $1.5 million. So I think it's very important for everybody to understand that PLOS is a good thing. Yes, it does add a little extra tax to purchases that we make, but everybody going up and down I-95 corridor also contributes to that. So I think we need to understand that. The other thing I want you to know is that many of the things that are coming down the pike for us as a city are financial in nature. And that is something that I have a very strong skill set in. I think it'll be important to manage our financial pressure points with the Exit 1 development, and also the stormwater fund that we must establish so that we can take care of that. And I've got a long history of management skills that I think I can help the city through the next few years. And I would love to have an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. With this question, the thing that I think needs to be understood and discussed is that of new business. We think that it's sometimes easy to bring in new business. It is sometimes a little easier to bring in a small business than it is a large one. For example, if you take the mill property, which we're trying to get, trying to get that marina and the other things that'll bring revenue to the city. We started working on that probably 10 years ago. 10 years ago, and we had to work hard. And it took a lot of work and discussing with the citizens. In fact, if any of you are around, we had meetings over in the grade school next to City Hall that we had room full of people, a few of them, and we had to make the decision to rezone that property. And that's led to where we were able to pick up JBI, the company that is currently studying that, or not studying, trying to get money so he can build on that property. And so it takes a long time. We need to understand that, and we need to understand how to work through that, and while we're going through that, how we keep the citizens engaged. Because one of the other things that you're faced with is many of these businesses don't want their name mentioned anywhere, and so you have to do things in the back room. They're called NDIs, and you can't talk about the development and so forth out in front of the public at that time. And so that takes time. We should understand that and be ready to accept that it's not an overnight fix. Some of these things take years, and I'm a good example of that. And that with the trails that I talked about earlier, and you'll see in my response to the paper on that question that there's a lot that goes into that, and there's been a lot of grants we've won. So, and the reason that I best serve on council for that is I've done it for the last several years, and I want to continue to do it for the citizens of St. Mary's, because I think that we have what's a beautiful city, and we need to preserve it.
All right, I'm going to use my last closing remarks to get specific, as I didn't get to on my last question. How are we going to minimize residential taxes while expanding commercial growth and increasing revenue? Number one, get out of the enterprise business. Number two, adopt the rollback rate for tax cuts. So that's how we're going to cut taxes. Let's cut wasteful spending. Cumberland Services is killing us. The contract is over in, I think, a year. Meridian's half as much. So there's some wasteful spending that we're doing we can cut down. Wouldn't it be nice to draw people downtown, and instead of seeing some of this blight, you see a pickleball court, maybe some market lighting and some picnic tables and chairs like Destin has Airstream Row with all these food trucks, maybe a splash pad for kids, and then we can have more parking. Wouldn't it be nice if we can remove some of those ugly buildings that nothing's been done to, which, by the way, would have happened to the old post office building if we didn't go and remodel it, put Yankee Pie and soon to be headline on the other side. So that's something I can definitely help with. We need quality growth. Exit 1, I'd love to see it be a continuation of Osprey Cove. I'd love to have us collaborate with GDOT for traffic and make that better. The drainage, I have a contract set up with one of the top drainage companies in the country right now who's already set up a template that we can pitch for bidding to third-party contractors to make sure the drainage doesn't affect the people that live in Osprey Cove. We need single-family homes, not apartments or duplexes. When you put a lot of apartments or duplexes, you get crime and you get a burden on our already burdened water system. What I'd love to see is more of a St. John's town center quality. I know it's not going to be the same thing, but that kind of quality shops and restaurants in the Exit 1 project. We need better management. Public Works, we need trackers on the trucks. I want to see where the trucks are going. That seems like a simple thing, but it's not being done right now. I'd like to get the most out of our money, and they're underpaid. Let's get some quality workers in there. Same thing for the police department. We need to have better management. And there's grant money available. Guys, we could be going after grant money even for Public Works. It's up for the taking. We got some people in this room that are great at going after grant money, and we're not utilizing it. And then lastly, for fixed flooding first, well, I already mentioned that. My time's up, so I'll land the plane right here. Sorry. Listen, if nothing changes, nothing will ever change. I'm here because you guys want change. That's why I want to run for you guys. So let's do it.
Pardon me while I interject something. I know you all recognize we had our sound system problems, and this is more directed to the people that hopefully are going to watch it on YouTube in a day or so. We understand what the problem is. We know how to fix it. The next 6 sessions should be without sound issues, so please come back for more. I apologize to you all for the inconsistency in our speaker system, but we'll get better. Thank you. During the opening this evening, I neglected to ask if there's any scouts in the audience. By that I mean candidates for county and city offices that are going to be at future forums. And we have one, Christine Adamau, running for post 5. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you when that forum is. No, is that your forum?
October 1st.
October 1st. Thank you.
I'll be there with her.
Okay. Thank you to everybody, the candidates, for participating, and even more importantly, for stepping up to run. God bless you. Let's all give them a huge round of applause. Christine did it right. She's standing. I think they deserve that. Anyway, next time. You're all invited to meet with the candidates one-on-one. We got 45 minutes. Make the best of it. Thank you for coming. Good evening.